Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Liza, Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Liza, Florida, and we have a special guest today, a very, very special guest. She's known as Your Routine Queen. She is a podcast host and a business coach for light workers, healers, sensitive souls, and visionaries, helping you design and run an online business for purpose and profit. She takes a stand for these entrepreneurs to learn how to fund your family values, giving and receiving energy exchange for the gifts you bring to the world. She believes that everything you need to do to run a successful business, online business, can be broken down into a routine or ritual that you can learn, master, and then automate, delegate, or outsource to free up more time to keep focusing on the inner work and impact you are on in this earth experience. Welcome, Chelsea Fournier, to the 8 Billion Podcast. It is such a pleasure, and I'm super excited.
This is going to be like, if you're listening, this is going to be a fire energy conversation.
This is, you guys, we might go offline for a little bit because we're going to break the internet here. You can even tell I'm getting tongue twisted in your intro because I'm like, I want to get to Chelsea because my goodness, audience, this is going to be, like I said, an amazing podcast because I have done some work with Chelsea. And so I'm here to really just let you guys know her work is amazing.
Well, I'm so excited to be a part of this project and this season and anything that it looks like to step into 5D more and more and more, bit by bit by bit, right?
Right. Well, okay, let's start with this because I know there's going to be so much we're going to uncover. Yeah. Could you tell everyone, I mean, your background was you were an attorney before you moved into this work of coaching. Are you okay?
Recovering attorney. It's okay
to talk I was going to say, when I looked at you, I was like, is it okay to talk about this?
Of course it is. Of course it is. Yes, I was an attorney. So for your listeners, the 2-minute Chelsea story is that I went to college. I have a photographic memory. I also am just really good at memorizing things. And so school was super easy for me. I know not for everybody, right? And so I graduated college in 4.5 years. Who does that? Why not stay and party, right? No, I went through. And then I got into law school and went through law school in that just student mentality without really being aware at all of my own body or my needs and just being very disconnected in that whole phase of life. We all do things in college we're not proud of, right? I can look back at it and be like, oh, Chelsea, what are you doing?
The journey.
And then in law school, I was so focused on just the learning and the grades and performing, if you will, that I didn't really think about the lifestyle. What am I going to do as a lawyer? Will it be in alignment with what I want to do? And I really cared so much about helping people. And so I was really fortunate. I graduated law school in 2008. There was not many jobs for new law degree students in 2008, if you can imagine. But I landed a really amazing position at a big law firm in Maine, which is where I was from. And that started a whole sequence of me trying to find myself in that career. And so I bounced around to a couple different law firms, ended up helping to co-found one, only to realize it's not them, it's me. It was not the right fit. I was so disconnected during my early legal career that it was very common for me to leave my office and go have a panic attack in my car because I was on the corporate ladder. And so I didn't want there to be any chink in the armor of me being able to be promoted or to count on Chelsea, right? And so even though I was having severe panic attacks, anxiety, such disconnection from everything, physical health issues, mental health issues, I was just powering through it. And then as I started to make changes to become more aware, more in alignment, little baby steps in the beginning is really when I started my journey of who am I? What am I doing? And making, I don't recommend it, but made huge changes really quickly, left a toxic marriage, left my career, made big black and white decisions, if you will.
Yes.
And since then, it's probably been about the past 9 years, I would say, of just what's the next thing for me to be doing? What can I work on? What's the next healing modality? Who's my next guru, And so, I still think like a lawyer, if you will. I was the type of lawyer that people like working with. I helped people set up their companies or protect their trademark or set up licensing agreements. Like, I did fun stuff, but it was such a disconnect from my true purpose and my life's purpose and work that it was never going to be a fit.
Yeah, no. And I just want to let the audience know what you guys are going to be seeing in season 5D is people who have done something like corporate jobs, like attorneys, turn into like coaching light workers. This is the kind of stories we're bringing here on this platform, because I want to show you that if you're on your journey and you're absolutely saying, I'm in this space where something is calling to me that's completely out of what I do to make a living.
Yeah.
This is what's happening on a global scale to a lot of people.
True. So true.
And Chelsea is here to create a routine for you.
So it is so funny that the left, like the masculine energy, the left brain, the systems, the checklists, the spreadsheets, like I live and breathe stuff like that. So I am so thankful for my legal training. And it's lovely that like when I sold my business recently, I was able to do the purchase and sale agreement. Like there's so many things I'm so grateful for of the skills and what was ingrained in me in that career. And now being able to be more connected in the work that I do now, really being more connected to the feminine energy and the flow and my own inner guidance and guides. And then being able to say, oh, other people need this to mesh too. Like, yes. Oh, I can help you with routines. I can help you. I've been in online marketing for a decade. I haven't gone bankrupt. Nobody's mad at me. Like that's a pretty good win being in online marketing and coaching, right? And so was able just in the past 6 months to finally step out of the closet and just be like, wait, every single favorite client I've ever worked with was a psychic, a medium, a breath worker, like was doing really big work. And in fact, when I was a lawyer, I had like a little secret referral ring of people that would refer to me and be like, she's a lawyer, but like she gets it. She'll listen to you. Like she knows that, right? Like she knows that energy healing deserves to have contracts. And so I've always had this little following of people being like, well, this is why I follow you, or I hired you as a business coach because I know how intuitive you are. And then I was like, wait, why am I not owning that? And it was about like September of 2021. It just became painful to not claim that. Yeah. And so I just stepped into it and was like, okay, you're routine queen, new podcast, brand new Instagram feed, just stepped away. I'm a very black and white person, you can tell. And so once I decided to just claim that, I like left my old brand. I closed down my website and just decided to start over to only be speaking and making it a safe space for more connected and spiritual entrepreneurs to know what they get from me.
Wait, so really quick, and I don't know if we covered this. Yeah. So you went from becoming an attorney and then you sold the business in September 2021?
Oh, sorry. No. So I've been a mutt in business, right? So I kind of wound down practicing law in 2016. And then I've been a business coach. I've done all kinds of different versions of coaching. So I've worn the hat of being a leader in network marketing. I have done social media consulting. I've worked to run like a program in the state of Maine that was kind of like a Shark Tank style thing for entrepreneurs. So I've done all kinds of different things, but I've always had coaching as the side of like, oh yeah, sure, I take coaching clients. And then when I finally just was like, you know what? I only want to be working with basically entrepreneurs who are just really soul driven and here for the purpose. And I want to help them see that they can piece it together, that it's not so far. And then when I decided to do that, I stepped away from my old Instagram, from my old Facebook, and was just like, I'm just starting over. And so, it was so cool that within my first launch of a program, I think I had less than 200 followers on my brand new account, and it was still like a very successful, my biggest launch of a program in my entire career. And I believe it's because I was like speaking exactly to the transformation that people want, and that just comes, I don't want to say easily, but I guess, yeah, easily to me to help people with the transformation that I know they're craving.
No, you're absolutely right, because it was just like, you get so clear with what you want. It was just like my call out for season 5.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, okay, let's see how many people I get. Like maybe 10, 15 people. I had 60 people. I was just like, what?
You're onto something.
I was onto something. I was like, what else can I call out for?
Yeah. Wow.
But, I just want to let the audience know, like Chelsea is the real deal, because I actually did take her class. guys.
You did. I was so honored. We
I
like
know.
connected for the pre-interview chat, and it was like the day that a brand new workshop style that I put together had come out, and I was like, I don't know. You seem like you'd be a really good fit to do this, and I'm so glad that you have jumped into. So the program that she's talking about is called Claim It and Call It In. And the intention is to really help you get out of the clutter and the ideas of your brain and like bring the ideas out through, kind of thinking about the marketing, but thinking about your signature transformation. And so many other ideas and decisions kind of flow once you've gotten really clear about that.
No, absolutely. And I am going to talk about this if you're okay with that, Chelsea,
Yeah, sure.
about the whole claim it and call it in.
I'm an open book.
Because, and I'm just going to let the audience know, obviously you guys knew that I was from real estate. And so 8 billion became a passion project.
Yeah.
But as I was called to dive deeper into this mission, of course, if I leave or move from real estate and transition in, I have to find income in doing my mission work. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. And oftentimes I think that you might have come across that, right, Chelsea? That people think that light workers, like there's sometimes there are this notion that they're just in here for service. But yet, how could they be of service?
Artist mentality of like,
yes.
It's not pure if I'm receiving money in exchange, on the far end. And I'm like, but we actually do still live in a material world. Like, I would love for you to live abundantly.
No, and that's what I wanted to say was that I knew always when I was going to go into mission work that life would really be abundant because you couldn't do something so great for the world. And I knew this either off my guides or just like intuitive hits. I knew that abundance was like full blown abundance. And we were even talking about this morning, Chelsea, right? In our one-on-one, that sometimes you see people like the light workers that where money is not an issue.
Right.
So they're out and about like in an island. They're like in Ibiza and they're like filming all their content. And we're like, we're not there yet.
Not there yet. And it's okay. It's okay to not be there,
Yes.
It really is.
And so in doing the workshop, I'm just wanting to share with the audience, to help clarify the fact that I had such big vision for 8 billion in cause media, which it's still there. I know it's in the ether. It's going to happen. But at the same time, I had to bring my life into the front of my face was like, okay, how am I transitioning from real estate now into sharing these gifts and talents where I can actually really call in my soul client? So maybe, hopefully, I'm going to be releasing this as a drip campaign, but this will help solidify how I got there, guys. Because of course, this will be released before I actually...
Maybe not. You never know the timeline of what.
I know, right? It's divine timing. I don't ever know. But Chelsea really had helped me and the workshop. And in addition to that workshop was the people that were in the container because we all got to share. They all give feedback. And it was amazing to be able to really get down to what it was. And Chelsea, you're so good at it. You're like the questions you asked, I was like, this is exactly what I need every day. I was like,
come hang out with me. Oh my gosh. Well, it's so fun. I just had one of my dearest friends from Maine. I now live in North Carolina. She just flew down for a week and she's on such an amazing journey. And we've both seen such transformations in each other on kind of a soul level from when we first met. And she's also running an online business. And so we were just like, it was so cool. If you have a friend where you can just go there on any topic, like, hey, let's talk about sales funnels. Hey, let's talk about our sex life. Hey, let's talk about like the next thing you're doing for breath work. Hey, let's talk about microdosing. It was just like, like all over the place. And so now she's home and I'm back in regular routine. And we texted each other today, be like, I miss you. Like, I just love having like, we need that community and it can't always be in person. And so that's a part of what I try to do in all of the programs I offer is to create that community. Even if it just means logging into an app and seeing what somebody gave you feedback or like we need to be surrounding ourselves with each other, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much out there that's just going to drain our energy and our focus if we don't set boundaries and surround ourselves.
Yes. And for those that are on your journey or you're a light worker and healer and listening to this, it was such a perfect program because even though the workshop was just 3 weeks, there was a whole week, honestly, that I could not do anything energetically. And Chelsea came from that space where she just understood. Whereas maybe in the other in the other world, in the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
world,
I call it
right?
the bro coaching world.
Yeah, the bro coaching world, they go like, well, where's your stuff? Like, what's wrong with you? And
Right.
oftentimes that's hard on a healer and light worker path. We often
Yeah.
had faulted ourselves for thinking that
So true.
when we couldn't do something, there was something wrong with
You're
us.
behind. Or that like
Mhm.
comparatus energy, or you can just get in. Like there are so many strategies out there. Like I always tell my clients, there's 10,000 ways to make $10,000 a month. And so what containers, what packages, like how do you want to do this? Let's design it to match your lifestyle. Like, today we were brainstorming like maybe it could be like extended packages, and then later, even after we talked today, I was like, what if she did like VIP retreats so that it was condensed energy? Like there's so
I
many
know.
ways to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And so I designed a framework, because having like a framework of what to think about, I call it the aligned decision making framework, ALIGNED. And if people want to dive into this, I have plenty of resources and posts and everything about it. But it helps you to think about different aspects of you and your business as you're making decisions. So it's not just, oh, I heard someone say that messaging 100 people a day on LinkedIn would get me clients. Like maybe that would work. That would drain the energy from me like immediately. It would zap it. And so that's a much more extroverted strategy, and it works for people who can do that sustainably, right? But if,
Yes.
if I did that for 2 days, then I'd have to like go sleep
I
with
know,
my
me
cat
too.
for like 5 days.
That's me. That's exactly me.
Yeah. And I
Sometimes
used to push through that, and then it was never worth it. It didn't feel authentic. If I did make connections, it would be, so different than when we connected. I never go into that Facebook group where you posted the call out to the podcast guest. I never go into it, but intuitively that day I was like, I'm going to go see if there's some cool exposure opportunities. And I saw your post and was like, 5D, who is this chick?
right?
Right? And it's just so cool when you can be consistent, but also just allow the intuition or the hits, but then to have a strategy of
Yes.
like, okay, I could have just gone randomly to scroll on Facebook, but instead I've done micro habits of choosing Facebook groups that I know could be beneficial, of following Instagram accounts that I know feed me instead of drain me. And so little micro habits over time, so that when I was like, I'm going to go on Facebook, it popped up something beneficial.
Right? No, it did. And it was a frequency match because
Yeah.
I can't begin to tell you that's exactly probably half the guests
Like,
you'll see on
yeah,
season 5 said,
like I never
I
got
don't,
there.
yeah, I don't go in that group, or I don't,
Yeah.
or I
Yeah.
don't usually, or they're in there for other clients to
Sure.
look for other
Sure. I
podcasts.
see.
And they're like, I had to write her, or I had to be on this podcast. And I was like, thank you, God. Thank you,
Yeah.
Spirit
Yeah.
guys.
So powerful. So
It was,
powerful.
yeah, and it's perfect when you are very precise and
Yeah.
that's when everything starts streaming through. And you even
Yeah.
said that to me this morning.
Yeah.
You're not that far from what you
Not that
think
far.
you are.
Yeah.
And I
I
have a
think
feeling,
like
yeah,
that's what I want to be known for. If there's like a graveyard about my business or a gravestone, I want it to be like, you're not that far. Like it's so much closer, because I think especially I hear so many light workers and healers feel like I don't have a business background. I'm not a marketing person. And it's this like huge weight, but it's not that far. Like most of the people I know are not looking to create a multi 7-figure empire with a team of 30 assistants. Maybe it gets there, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But most of the people who I work with, why I speak about funding your family values, is maybe you are an amazing, supportive health guide, and you're supporting your clients, but you know what? You also have a kiddo that you're homeschooling, and you wish you had a bigger
mhm,
budget for, educational resources or field trips for him, or, you wish that you could buy all of the organic food that you want, but you're on more of a limited budget. And so if people could just know how close they are, like a game I play with my clients is like, how many yeses do you need? Because once you design an aligned offering and it's clear and you know who the right fit is and you get on
mhm,
that frequency, like you might be 10 yeses away from fulfilling your goals if you package it
absolutely.
properly, right? You might be 5 yeses away, or depending on how big the container is or how much you price it at. Most people are so much closer to what they want. You just muddle it down with self-doubt and imposter syndrome, and I can't figure this out. The tech scares me. I don't like screen time. I don't want to hire a virtual assistant. I don't know how to create systems. Like these are all stories we tell ourselves. And I think because in traditional education systems, many of us were told that we were wrong. Stop being a daydreamer, stop like doodling. I don't want to hear you talking in the back row. Like this was me. And now I'm like, wait, what if all of those were strengths?
Exactly. Or what if that was just, and I had this conversation with another podcast guest.
Okay.
It was a call to remembrance because you understand now in the spirit, and like as you continue to ascend, that there aren't just visions because you're crazy, because that's going to be, remember my signature. You're not crazy.
I'm like, you're close. And you're like, you're not
really
crazy.
Close. You're not
really
crazy.
Good cheerleaders.
If I have that class and it's called You're Not Crazy, Chelsea was the one, me and Chelsea came up with that. You're not crazy. But you didn't have that vision, because if you understand energy, that your dreams are no different than the reality that you have. So you have that there. It's just pulling from all of those possibilities and manifesting it into this, 3D form.
It's so true. And I do believe that there's some element of this just things being beaten out of us. That's obviously like a really graphic visual, but when I was in middle school and high school, I'm doing a lot of inner child work and releasing trauma. I've been just doing a lot of different modalities, and we can talk about that if you want. But over the past year and a half, and I'm now realizing as I look back, so many of the coping mechanisms and like numbing myself and even dissociating was because I felt everybody's energy 24/7. I didn't know how to handle that. Right? So I have been such a deep feeler and empath, and like I would be in a room and be so overwhelmed, I would stop breathing. Like that's a panic attack. You're so overwhelmed, you stop breathing, right?
Right. That's what you were even talking about when you were an attorney, right? Working as an attorney.
So there was so many times in my life that I was so overwhelmed with thinking about, I would literally put more energy into planning a conversation or like being 10 steps ahead. And it wasn't to be like calculated or to be like snotty about like, oh, I know better than you. It was always to manage and minimize tension, because if I shouldn't have been a lawyer, right? But if I was like in the midst of tension in my household, in my marriage, if it would compile, and I felt everybody so deeply 24/7 that I would literally just hit a breaking point and stop breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of the, coping mechanisms of numbing out, dissociating, drinking alcohol, like these unhealthy things, I can now see were me protecting. And now that I'm in a very calm marriage, I work for myself. Like now I feel really safe to step back into feeling. And so my intuition, and I'm starting to learn more and more about the difference between clairvoyance and clairaudience. Like my clairaudience is coming back super strong. And so like I'm still on this journey, and I just want your listeners to know like it could change. Like I can look back and remember that I used to see like baby angels.
That's amazing.
I thought I was crazy. I remember this from when I was like 3 or 4 years old, and having conversations with my family, and then them thinking I was crazy. Right? And so like, then I closed that door.
Yeah.
Because you don't want your family to think you're crazy. You don't want to be, saying, I used to say that I heard other voices. And then once I learned about imaginary friends, I just told my parents they were imaginary friends.
But you knew that they were not. But did you know that they were not?
I did. And so I was like protecting other people, because I felt like if I didn't, and it was tension, it was always like trying to minimize tension, because I would feel all of it almost like times 10 of what everybody else was feeling. Wow. And I'm sure there's some people listening who like, are whatever part of me, and it's just like re-exploring it, rediscovering, feeling safe, understanding, releasing, just over the past, I would say, year and a half. Postpartum anxiety. So I have as we're recording this, I have like a 28-month-old amazing little crystal child. He's so freaking amazing. And but the first like year of his life, I hit a rock bottom in relation to postpartum anxiety, to a point of sleep deprivation, to a point where I was having hallucinations. And so it was like a rock bottom in some ways, but then it forced me to prioritize getting back into therapy. Therapy introduced me to brain spotting. Brain spotting introduced me to breath work. And so then it just became this like, what's the next thing I can figure out? and feeling really okay with that and having it be really freaking messy and knowing that I have a support system, my partner, dear friends, other light workers I can talk to, but I didn't have that years ago and it would have been messy and scary on my own. So I think it unfolded in the only way I was going to be able to like handle it.
No, you're absolutely right. Because that was my healing modality. I was like, okay, mine was Reiki and energy healing. And so I looked it up. Of course, I still remember I was visiting my mom's gravesite and I said, I can't handle this energy in my chest. And for the first time, I don't think it's mine. So I went to find an energy. I called 3 and I said, okay, whoever calls me back first,
that's
who I'm going with. It's just like that, right?
I do.
Like mine, and I think I openly talk about it. My energy healer meditation coach is Marissa Greco.
Okay.
She was season 3, episode 1. Awesome. I'm still with her till this day.
Yeah.
But that became, that became one of my first healing modalities. That opened up my crown chakra to connect first with my higher self. And then my guides started appearing and then they wouldn't stop appearing. And there were more and more of them.
Wow. And then you're like, I'm not crazy.
I'm not crazy. And then exactly healing. And then I went through quantum healing hypnosis therapy. It just, that's what I wanted to let the audience know. Like it can start anywhere. It could start even with yoga and meditation, but whatever you feel called to do, follow, because that's something pulling from, your solar, or your gut telling you to go in that direction. Just keep exploring.
Yeah, I love that. And for me, it has felt right to be like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Mm-hmm. I think I'm at a place right now where I really just want to sit in it with integration for a little while, because I've been doing hypnotherapy and inner child work and mindset. And, it's like there's only so many things you can do every day. Like,
yes, exactly.
Especially if you are kind of living a busy modern life. I have a toddler, I run a business online, I have a husband, like there's certain things I want to do for my own health every day. And so it's like, I can't sit for, 2 hours doing a luxurious mindset practice most days. Once in a while, right? Like I can have that more luxurious time or forego doing work while the nanny is here. But for most of us, it is like, you can't do everything at once. And so also, if people don't do this, I reconnected back with my dowsing crystal and was like, I used to use dowsing. Do you do this for decision making?
Wait, when you say dowsing is pendulum?
Yeah, pendulum.
You guys, I was debating whether to actually put it on my Instagram today because I was showing people. Yeah. You guys, I carry my pendulum everywhere.
Everywhere. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
Yeah, because sometimes I wonder, like I'm stopped at a stoplight and I'm like, I'm using my pendulum. And I'm even wondering if the person next to me that drives up is like, what in the world is she doing?
What is happening? Totally.
I carry my pendulum everywhere because if I
have not connected into that, it's so helpful.
Yes.
If you're listening and you've never done this, look it up, Google it, or go ask Liza. But reconnecting into that as just a support tool for me to really feel, and because I'm into human design a little bit, and so I know that I'm a sacral being in that chart, and I've found that even if I hold the pendulum closer to my gut, kind of gut instinct, it swings even more specifically. And so I've just been in this space recently of like, if something is fuzzy, I'm just like, go to the pendulum. And, who should I hire? Recently hiring a virtual assistant. Is it this woman or is it this woman? Oh, super clear. And it's just whatever you can find to help yourself not feel crazy. Remind yourself that you're made of energy. Go hug a tree. Like whatever little micro habits can help you just feel more connected. Because for me, there's the connection micro habits. And some days are better than others. Like, let's just be honest. You're going to have days where you do not feel connected, or like, depending, especially for female listeners, if you're still have your cycle, like, I'm waiting for my bleed to start and I'm like, I feel really grumpy today, and that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm not a light worker, Because I think we can get there's visions of what, at least I feel this way sometimes, especially with Instagram or visual platforms that can be like, oh, the people with 200,000 followers like that call themselves light workers, they look a certain way. And if you don't look that way, that's okay. Because there's not like a specific, roll call of what it looks like to really just be here and be stepping into your purpose, and whatever little micro habits help you to stay connected. And then for me, obviously, I focus on little micro habits you can take to create routines in your business as well. But every day is just, a give and take.
No, and it has been the most amazing thing to come across Chelsea and her work. Because that's exactly what my challenges are. My challenges are big vision, and then how do I scale it down to even where I admitted to Chelsea that I said all of this stuff, like building, like sales pages, or getting all of harvesting all the information, right? The links and all this kind of like that gives me anxiety. I would need a healing session if I had to. So it's all coming into scope. And the biggest thing when like you're on a journey or you're a light worker and healer, you go at the pace that you need to go through and at the speed, because everything is perfect. It's not, everything is divine time. In the spirit world, there's no time.
Yeah.
In our human experience, there is. But of course, I understand people have got to meet deadlines and have certain launches.
Yeah. It's just an interesting time to be exploring what all of this means to us. Everybody's like on a different level of ascension. Everybody's on a different, like if I had $5 million sitting in a bank, would I be running my day differently and growing my business differently and hiring out more? For sure.
Absolutely, right?
Like, would I be logging on to edit my reels? No, but I am. And I feel okay about that because I really trust that I'm learning skills, even if it makes me anxious sometimes. I'm learning skills that I can then create systems around. And, like I said, you read in my bio, as you were reading it, I was like, damn, that's good. Because I do believe that everything can be a routine or a ritual. And once you do it with some repetition, you don't have to do it for years. But this was ingrained in me when I was a lawyer, that you don't delegate something like to an assistant or a paralegal until you know how to check their work. Because, you might have a brilliant paralegal and you feel like you can offload so much to them, be like, whoa, my life is easier. But the strategy, the discernment, the vision, the like thinking 10 steps ahead, that really falls on you as a business owner, or in this case, when I was a lawyer. And so I really try to be like, I'm not going to be in the weeds forever, but I do want to understand enough that when I delegate, I can give good constructive feedback and training and onboarding. Like I'm just onboarding someone to help me to design some funnels and to put together a quiz that I know is really meaningful. And so I know the vision of like the experience I want for people who go through this quiz. There's some quizzes out there that are like, what character are you? Or blah, blah, blah. No, I'm like, when you go through my quizzes, you get like a custom assessment and like next steps, right? And so I know.
And it's color coded, you guys.
It probably is. My Google document will be color coded that I assign to my assistant. But it forces me to create those systems so that when I bring team members in, I hope, if any of them are listening, I hope they enjoy working with me, because I really try to play to their strengths and have a grounded system. And system can be a scary word, but it could just be, knowing your brand colors before you hire a graphic designer. Shouldn't be up to them to know like what colors are going to resonate with your audience, or knowing who your ideal client is, or you've done some market research and you have phrases that you say that connect with people before you hire out copy. Like some of that is just, you can't skip certain steps. I just had a guest on my podcast recently who's a 7-figure earner, and I was like, Nora, what's the number one takeaway you want? If someone is listening to this and they feel like they're in the muck of running an online business, or just feeling like, is this going in the right direction? She said the number one thing is you can't skip steps.
Yeah.
You can't skip the steps that feel awkward or imperfect, or taking way more time. The amount of content that I create now is probably 30 times more than what I created 6-8 months ago, because of decisions I've made and routines I've put in place. Like I can be much faster, more efficient, more energized, for example, in creating social media content. And it's bringing in the right people. Maybe not a huge vast, like I'm not going viral, but I don't really care that much about going viral. I care about someone, I would say almost every day, someone sees a post that I shared. I get a lot more like private messages. I talk a lot to introverts and light workers. Like they're not doing these big shares and, shouting me out. And so the private message of someone saying, this is exactly what I needed to hear today. How are you in my head? What are some of the other things I could, look at? And that's more meaningful to me, because I don't want to DM 100 people a day, but 1 or 2 people a day getting meaningful value from my content. I know as my feed grows, I hope that grows in, percentage wise, but that's why I'm here. Like, that's why I'm here on this earth, to help. If I can help okay, maybe 10 business owners step into a whole new level of what their impact and purpose can be while increasing their abundance and profit for their own family, for their own vision, philanthropy. If I can do 10, if I can do 100, if I can do 1,000, I don't know. Like that really the sky's the limit, but I'm just focusing on like every day am I trying to put something out that really lands and connects with the people that I want to support?
No, and you're absolutely at the forefront of this, honestly, because the way that Chelsea has it all done with her in conjunction with her background and her skill sets and gifts, it's amazing. On top of her spiritual gifts, her ability to empathize and just go at that pace that that person needs to go. This is everything. When I did the workshop, you guys, I'm telling you guys, jump on that workshop if you have a chance, if you are a light worker healer or intuitive, anything that really calls to you in this podcast. I'm telling you, from someone that actually is going through it right now, because we will be done in about a week. And so I just want to let you know too, I tested it and I changed my statement. I was like, okay, I'm just going to, I think I put,
Instagram?
Yeah, I think
Awesome.
I put visionary storyteller, and then chief creativity officer. But then I just
love that.
I put founder of 8 billion. And I was just like, let me just change energy frequency just a little bit. Yeah. So then I'm dripping it in until I can get the statement in.
Well, and what you just said, so I was sharing with you earlier that one of the biggest compliments that I just love when people come into our physical home, immediately people are like, your house is so zen. We don't live in like a fancy house, but just the energy that we have. And even my toddler is like, he does breath work, and like we have a pretty zen home, right? Like he'll have a tantrum once in a while.
He does breath work.
But he does. It's amazing. He'll say, Mama, if he's like seeing it come on, sometimes it goes too far. He's 2, right? And it's a full on meltdown, but he is very open to like, do you need to take some deep breaths, babe? Do you need some essential oils? Like I'm trying to teach him that he has tools, that you're not freaking broken if you feel. I already know he feels as deeply as I do. Like we'll walk into a room and I'll get a hit of like, oh, there's tension. This feels unsafe. And his body tenses, his face gets red when he's super stressed. And so like we're like each other's little canaries of going into a room and being like, let's go.
Like a movie. It really is. I even know my son has gifts. He thinks, I think he's coming into it, but he couldn't sleep last week. And I was just like,
it was a wild week last week. We're shooting this like right after the Virgo full moon. And it was just
and then spring equinox.
That's right. Yeah. The weekend. So, but sorry, I got on a sidetrack about how amazing my son is, because I could get on a sidetrack about him 24/7. But when people come into our home, it's a great compliment to me that people just feel immediately calm. And so I think about my Instagram feed as, will people feel welcome here? What's the frequency? What is how am I energizing the content before I put it out? Am I like, I just got to get a post out and like shoving it out the door and hitting post? Or am I like feeling really good about it, taking some deep breaths? Is it exactly what I want to say? And I think the more what you just said of like just changing the frequency a little bit, you can test, you can tweak, you can get feedback. You might even take a screenshot of it and put it up into your stories and be like, hey, which of the words that I'm using resonates with you? Like just making it a conversation makes it so that people want to come in. It's just like your living room. Do people want to come in, or is it like there's 3 dogs running around and a toddler screaming and the, cast iron pan is like smoking? Like, is it stressful? Or is it like, oh, I could get behind learning from this woman. I want to engage with her.
Yes. That's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to just at least change the energetic frequency, because I think I saw real estate, and then I podcast host, and then I put speaker. But then I was just like, gosh, lots has even just changed.
Yeah.
And my old clients and my family and friends will always know that I'm in real estate.
Absolutely.
But what I'm saying is there's going to be a lot more people that are coming into this scope. And I really wanted to speak to, at least
feel like you belong here.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is we compete for like little snippets of attention. And you and I were talking earlier today, like I truly believe if someone is meant to connect with me, my stuff will show up for them, even if it doesn't make sense for the algorithm, right? It's just like, why is Chelsea on here? But we are competing in the logistics of social media. And so figuring out how to find what can feel like a good starting point for consistency, because I believe I'm just constantly asking myself, like, if my soul client woke up this morning saying, I need a business mentor, am I on their radar? If
Mm.
not, if I haven't posted for 3 months and she's wondering if I'm still taking clients, or like if I've been posting about things that have nothing to do with my business and she's like, what's going on? Like, am I in the running? And
Yeah.
if I'm not in the running, there's going to be like a really deep connection for her to remember me from eons ago. And that happens. It for sure does. But I find it my responsibility to be showing up with some consistency to say, like, hey, this is a safe relationship of trust. And when you're ready, I'm here.
Yes, absolutely. 110%. I am absolutely in love with this season to be able to talk with such high frequency souls, to be able to share this with the audience and know that even if you're listening to it and you got this far, there's a reason why this podcast is calling to you, or why, why you're listening to this, because for me, I've absolutely birthed the world where now I'm in frequency with so many people that are doing amazing
I
things.
can't wait to listen and like click through the show notes and, link over to
Oh,
people.
it
I
is
can't wait.
going to be an incredible season. It's just
Yeah.
like it's what's funny, audience, is I interview these podcast guests and then I end up becoming their clients.
Because you're like, you're so
I'm all like,
amazing.
I want to do that and I want to do that. It's amazing. But you really are opening up your whole world to infinite possibilities when the frequency level is really high. And, that's what we talk about is the journey is always healing first. We all went through it. We all went through those parts where you think you're crazy and you're the only one going through it. But I think it's really coming to the fore that like the things that are happening to us in our lives right now can no longer, these people can't, most of us can't live like this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I like to think about it when I was going through labor, for any mamas out there, my doula kept reminding me this is not a linear process. Because if there was any like, setback or things weren't progressing, and it's like, yeah, obviously like your body's going to do what it's meant to do. Birth is not a linear process, but neither is healing. It can feel like, I thought I healed that. Why is it coming up again? Right? I think I said I could overcome this trigger. And I'm so blessed to have an amazing husband and partner who's like, he's so here for this. If you had asked him before he met me, if he'd be like, he reminds me, babe, it's the full moon. Did you charge your crystals yet? I'm like, hey, thanks.
Love that.
Like, he's just super open. He's like, I love my witchy wife. You're awesome. But not everybody has that. And so, especially if you're on that non-linear, you're going forward and 2 steps back, if you don't have that support system within your nuclear family or family of origin or chosen family of friends, like, find people online. Follow all of the speakers that you have, that you get to hear on this podcast. Like, I choose to have my Instagram feed be people who I would love to have dinner with or would love to have hire me. I don't really follow people that trigger comparitis or, negativity. If I just unfollow, I block a lot of people because it's like a really big living room for me, and I'm not going to follow someone. And so take advantage of, go back into other seasons. I'm going back and listening to past seasons as well and just being like, let me follow that person. Let me follow that person, because you really bring together amazing community and you make it safe to be just who you are. As I was prepping for this and just getting my energy ready, I was like, wait, do I even have anything to say? Like, am I a light worker? I don't know. And you get in your head, but then, you create a really safe space for people to just like be where they are and share something.
What was really amazing? Thank you so much though, Chelsea. I got into, and you do the same as well. I got into a conversation prior to recording this, and, she's a high level coaching, coach, for light workers as well. Looking to make like really big impact in the world. But she was just like, it's not she goes, it's who you become. She goes, it's who you become in the process, because once you become that, the purpose becomes so clear, the money just becomes the byproduct. I do. And for myself, I should say, I think that a lot of people like coming on 8 billion because I've come with such an open heart, because I have gone through a lot of, trauma and emotional thing,
Mhm.
that it's nice to just hold that open space for someone. And before they know it, they didn't think they had anything to say, and they want to say so much.
Right?
And they're all like, oh, and I want to say this. It's just like a little kid, right? When
Yeah.
when they get comfortable, then they want to share more.
And
And
it's
it's
like, "Oh, you
creating.
get me?" I think that's what I'm excited about. My friend who visited and I were talking about this is that you're seeing these words more often. Like, your feminine divine, say, light worker, soul. You weren't seeing these star seed,
Yeah.
crystal child. You weren't seeing
Yeah,
any of these words
exactly.
on a
Intuitive,
regular
right?
basis. And so now it's almost like, "Oh, you get me? Oh, interesting. I can speak to you." And the more that you can cultivate that, like seek it out. If you're listening to this in the audience and you're just feeling like, well, it's great to hear that you guys have support or you're able to invest in working with gurus or anything like that, just know that it starts where you're comfortable, and it could start with just following a couple people on accounts and getting inspiration. It
Mm-hmm.
could start with hiring someone for a one-off session, either for healing or for business. Like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, although that tends to be my method, I guess.
Right?
But it could just be, taking a step. Or if you know that you want to have an online business, but you're nervous about it, like just doing a live video and speaking as though you have a business. Like, it doesn't have to be that you
Mm-hmm.
hire someone right off. Can it help you to cut the curve, the learning and earning curve? For sure. But even just like walking like you're doing it, because it's
Yes.
so funny. So many of my clients are so overqualified. Like, have a, naturopathic doctor with 5 different certifications and a life coach, and like they've got all these tools. So many of them still saying, "Am I good enough? Like, do I need another certification before I can say I can charge people?" And I often ask them, like, if you 5 years ago could speak to you now, would you pay for the knowledge that you would impart?
Mm-hmm.
And every one of them is like, "Yeah, it would save me 5 years of, heartache or
Yes.
struggle." And it's like, then why? Because there's so much red tape, and there's so many professions where you do have to be certified. And do I think you should not hold yourself out as like trauma informed, or like, if you're not, don't say you are. But so many people who are a couple steps back from you on whatever journey you feel gifted in, and it doesn't have to be this like construct with a certification or a training. Like, maybe it is. It might be your natural born gifts. Like, someone who was in the workshop with us, Mary Beth, she's an amazing intuitive reader, and she reads your superpowers. And she actually did a reading for me, and it was like so validating to feel seen at that level. She hasn't had to receive training from that. She's been doing it since she was 3.
That's crazy.
Right? And so how cool is it to think that something that you were just born with that might have been a
Yes.
struggle or might have been what you got made fun of? Like, I was just talking to a medium the other day after a sound healing, and she was saying that one of her current clients is like a stockbroker, big time Wall Street guy, and they realized they went to high school together. And like, they didn't recognize each other. They were a couple years apart or something, I think. And so he was like, "Why didn't you tell people about this?" Because she's had it her whole life, had the gift. "Why didn't you talk about this when you were in high school?" And she's like, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
I wouldn't have gotten
exactly.
invited to parties. You guys would have put me in the back corner. Like, nobody would have understood." But you get perspective, and you age, and you start to see like, oh, this is really, really powerful.
It really is. It was never accepted because of, remember, and I understand that we all have cultural backgrounds, we have religious backgrounds,
Yeah.
and especially if most of the world was built on a lot of religious organizations. So
Yeah.
it's hard to get out of the constructs of your mind that everything you kind
Yeah.
of want is opposite the things that kind of put you in these in this
Yeah.
framework of thinking that's what your
Like,
whole life
I can
was.
talk about this. Does it feel safe? Does it feel, like a lot of times I do a lot of like cord and attachment clearing for myself. And especially if I'm feeling stuck in my work or I can't articulate what I want to be sharing, then, I kind of tune in and like, is there something old coming up? And there's for me been a generational fear of persecution that attaches to my hips. And as I think back, there's absolutely the potential that there was women in my family lineage that were
That
like
were.
persecuted for being a
Mhm.
witch, or
Yeah.
something like that. We all have a lot of things that we can't even pinpoint what generation it was, but if it feels really deeply true, it probably is true.
Yes. No, it's absolutely that. Oh my gosh. I was even going to say, I was going to add this in. I was talking to my guides the other day. I was at home alone. And I was like, that's it. We're ending this generational trauma once and for all. I'm going to do it in this family lineage. And I can literally see my ancestors like cheering in the background. Yeah.
Well, and I think
They
that's a
hear
lot
it.
of what we're seeing, whether people are embracing like gentle parenting or conscious parenting or just being parenting in a different way. Like, I think our parenting styles, our own personal healing, opening up our voice to be on a bigger scale, like anything you're doing that feels different than your experience was, if as long as it feels like moving towards the light, I consider that to be light work.
Yeah.
Even if you're a stay-at-home mom who feels like you're not running a business, but you are being the most conscious parent that you can be, and you're committed to running like homeschooling or helping to support the next generation in your lineage that's going to break certain things. I think that's, you can't discount the importance of so many ways that you can do this work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh my goodness. These hours, I know they
I feel
fly
like we could
by
chat forever.
so fast. Maybe you should have, I hope you extend your live hours. Just kidding, because I could always talk to you for a long time, Chelsea.
No, this is
But
so fun.
but this time flies so fast. Did we actually chat really quick about your online assessment test?
Yes, I'm so
Okay.
excited about this. So, because I am taking a stand for really for people to be able to look at purpose and profit as being enmeshed together in a really beautiful way, I'm designing a quiz that is called What is Holding Back Your Profit Potential? And so, if you're listening to this, if you struggle with like money blocks or do I want to do things online, if you know that you have a purpose that you really want to bring out and be more scalable and have more visibility through online, but you're really struggling with it, whether it's posting, whether it's packaging or pricing, anything, it's going to be a really fun quiz that's going to help you really look at like, how close are you? I say you're so much closer than you think. And so I'm going to have an assessment based on how you answer it. It will actually give you a custom assessment at the end of what are some key next steps that I think you could take either on the energetics or the business strategy. So that you could go to chelseafournier.com and it will be right up at the top, or you could put a /quiz. It will be chelseafournier.com/quiz at the end. And also on my page, there will be, if you're looking to learn more about what Liza did with me, you'd be looking for Claim It and Call It In. And that's a workshop intensive that has the workshop and some training and content batching support, and then 3 weeks of ongoing support. And it should be running still by the time this launches. So you should definitely check it out.
Yes, definitely, audience, check it out. I mean, it was an amazing, I'm still in the middle of it. So if you guys see what happens to me in June, know that that's what happened to me in the workshop.
Maybe I played a tiny, tiny little seed in that.
And from here, it's like you hear us all the time. Anyone in our industry or in our space, we just say everything is infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
So we want you to come from that space where you guys, like just what Chelsea said to me this morning. She goes, you're not that much far from where you think you are.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of steps, but it's not. The method that I teach through all of my programming is decisions by design. And it's more about making clear decisions without worrying about them being right, and clear decisions however you like to do that. Whether it's, making sure you're leaving space for having conversations with your guides or using your pendulum, or making sure your decisions feel clear without worrying about if they're right, but making them in the right decision. It lays, or in the right order, it lays the foundation. Because like if you started running ads to something that you've created before you do the signature transformation work that we've done, there'd be a huge disconnect. Doing them in the right order makes a huge difference. And if you're someone who craves routines, or you struggle with that, or you want to hear other stories about people exploring routines, you can find me over on Your Routine Queen podcast, and I go by Your Routine Queen on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, gosh, like I said, I could talk to you guys forever. It's just, should I keep recording this or not? But I know we're going to have more conversations, Chelsea, but thank you so much for being on this episode of the 8 Billion podcast, and for the whole audience that tuned into this episode.
So honored.
Yes. Thank you. You always know you're going to have a platform here and a voice on 8 Billion.
Great.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, and we will check you out on the next episode of the 8 Billion podcast. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the 8 Billion Podcast. If it's moved you in any way, please share your thoughts or give us a review on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. To listen to more episodes, go to 8billionpodcast.com, or to learn more about our mission, go to 8billionproject.com.